Our first guest tonight is a United States Senator from Minnesota. Her book, Antitrust, Taking on Monopoly Power from the Gilded Age to the Digital Age, is available now. Please welcome back to the show, Senator Amy Klobuchar. Thank you so much for being here, Senator.
Hi, Seth. It's great to be on.
So I want to ask, last week you were in the room, obviously limited attendance for Biden's first big speech. Exciting for many people, especially seeing two women on the dais behind him. Maybe a little boring for other people. Senators Romney and Cruz both caught dozing off. How did you find the evening?
I actually thought it was a very good speech. It was such a different environment, a little less partisan because of standing up and down. But I will say, no matter who the president is, before you go in there and watch a long speech at 9, coffee. Yeah. But you can't drink too much. You just drink a little. So that might have helped.
Yeah, that should be one of the things they teach sort of newly elected officials insofar as how to deal with the long speech.
Yes.
I want to ask about, certainly in the primary season, both you and President Biden were framed as moderates in, the very crowded at the time primary field. And yet it seems as though, and certainly laid out in that speech, that a very progressive agenda is being pursued. How do you feel being a part of this, and do you feel like that's the way things are going?
This is the moment to get things done for this country. And I think the fact that we've had 4 years of neglect of our democracy and nothing done on things like childcare or really in a big way on infrastructure, people want change. That's why they voted in Georgia for 2 Democratic senators. That's why Joe Biden won by the big margin that he won by. And so I don't think it's a surprise that he's doing well now and that he's pursuing this agenda. And that while we have a lot of differences in our party, we try to work it out. And that's how we got that rescue plan passed. It was so important, as you pointed out in your openings there, to get the vaccine numbers up, to get the economy shored up. So I think it's what people want. I think it's the right thing to do. And our party, we may have disagreements. You see them on the news, but we don't purge people and try to kick them out just because they're telling the truth, like Liz Cheney.
So it's very good timing for us to have you on talking about your antitrust book, because so much happened even today. For example, Facebook decided to uphold their ban on former President Trump, to extend it at least another 6 months. What is your reaction to that news?
That was the right thing to do. He's the disinformer in chief. He told the biggest lie of all time, which led to an insurrection by getting his followers to believe that the election was a fake. It was an outrageous moment with a number of Republicans calling him out on it at the time. And so, as I said on that inaugural stage, this is the time for our democracy to pick itself up, dust itself off, move forward. And we do not need more disinformation from Donald Trump, or for that matter, from others who are spreading disinformation about the vaccine that's making people think they're getting a microchip planted in their shoulder, like the guy I met at a cafe who said his mother-in-law wouldn't get it because she read that on Facebook. There has to be some rules of the road in place, and someone like him shouldn't be allowed to make people believe lies.
So, obviously this was a decision, and this was based on rules that Facebook has laid out. This was not government intervention on the Donald Trump ban, but I do think it speaks to how powerful Facebook is, that a former president is desperate to have that platform back. And we saw a lot of members of the GOP today basically backing this idea that you lay out in your book, as far as it's important to break up monopolies. Yet they're not just angry about the deplatforming of Donald Trump, but they also think that tech is too woke. Do you see this now as a moment where you might actually have some help from across the aisle in taking steps to, sort of have antitrust legislation? Or do you think it's just posturing based on the fact that they're angry today about, this decision that was specific to the former president?
There is some posturing going on. And this notion they put out there that, tech is bad because liberals work there or something like that, that's not the reason to move forward. The reason to move forward is that we have a few companies that are the biggest the world has ever known, that are gateways and make it really hard for competition to come up. They buy everything in sight. Look at what we had a hearing on the app stores with Google and Apple in front of us, and found out from companies like Spotify, Tile, and yes, Match.com about how they have to pay 30% of what people buy on their app store sites, and they have to give it to Apple or Google. They're told that they can't even say you can get a better deal on our website. This isn't good for competition. And we've always been an entrepreneurial country that rejuvenates itself with capitalism. Small businesses emerge, they do well, they turn sometimes into big businesses, sometimes not. But when you have a company that buys everything in sight, and where its head, Mark Zuckerberg, literally sent an email that got discovered last year that said we'd rather buy than compete, that is exhibit A of a monopoly. And I wanted to make the case to the country. We've seen this before. We did something about it, and we need to use our laws to do it again.
Well, I think it's interesting what you just said there, because obviously big business would frame antitrust as being anti-capitalist. But can you speak more to the idea of that antitrust legislation can help capitalism because it evens the playing field?
Yeah, there's all kinds of examples of this through history, most notably the breakup of AT&T. That brought us lower long distance rates. I was representing MCI a bit after this happened, so I know a lot about it. It also started the cell phone industry up. Those cell phones used to be the size of Gordon Gekko's briefcase in the movie Wall Street. And now we have all kinds of options. And the former chair of AT&T himself has said it made them a stronger company because they had to compete. That's what we need to do again. It may mean divesting assets. They don't need to own, Facebook doesn't need to own WhatsApp and Instagram. Maybe those two companies would have developed better privacy policies or misinformation policies and bells and whistles we'll never know of. But they ate them up because, in Mark Zuckerberg's words in a discovered email, they could have been disruptive to us. Competition is about disruption. I worked in the private sector. I believe in capitalism, but I also know that you have to have a check and balance to make sure that we keep having new competitive companies emerge.
You talk about, and I don't think it would be surprising. Most people, the first time they hear Monopoly is because of the board game, right? That's the first time kids hear that word and understand a little bit of what it means. You lay out the history, the sort of unknown, or not well-known, I should say, history of that board game.
Exactly. And a woman named Lizzie McGee, who is not notable in history and was discovered through some great reporting from a New York Times, Wall Street Journal reporter, she actually came up with the idea. She was strongly against monopolies. Then what happens is Mr. Darrow and Parker Brothers come in, and guess what? For the first time in history, a man got credit for a woman's idea.
That was it. And then other men were like, that's great, we should keep doing that.
Let's keep doing it.
This has been pointed out by a number of people. Your colleague, Secretary of Transportation now, Pete Buttigieg, he had a book that just came out called Trust, and people were wondering if antitrust was a counter to that. But you want to lay those rumors to rest.
I do. The rivalry does not continue. In fact, I actually did an interview with his book behind me at one point to promote it. We're good friends. I met his dogs recently. We had lunch, went on a walk. He's a great guy. He's doing a really good job. But one thing I have that Pete doesn't have, I have over 100 cartoons in my book, Seth. Yes.
All right. Well, again, so if you're a kid at home looking for the book to buy, this one has cartoons and a backstory about Monopoly. Speaking about meeting dogs, have you ever met Major? Have you met the president's dog?
No, I have not.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe.
I'm not. I don't know how. I heard Major, didn't he go to Delaware to be with his family for a while?
Yeah, that's what they tell you. That's another thing they tell kids about. Hey, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Antitrust is available now.